This is the On the Pony Express podcast, hosted by Billy Embody, brought to you by Epic Estate Wines. Walking strong on the Pony Express, a weekly segment with SMU alum, owner, vintner of Epic Estate Wines, Bill Armstrong. Epic Estate Wines, world-class wines from Paso, Robles wine country. Learn more, Epic, EPOCH, epicwines.com. And now your host. Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Walking Strong. Bill Armstrong.
Hey, my podcast partner.
We'll work on that. There we go.
Right, whatever.
Hey, we're just enjoying the boulevard right here, getting all
God.
geared up for that November run and homecoming.
I mean, that's right. We haven't been here since the whole month.
Yeah.
The whole month, right?
Road Warriors.
Yeah. I mean, anyway, it's. I got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what I want to talk about specifically, but it's not necessarily football related.
Okay.
But I want to say, first of all, we are going to have a great bottle of white wine today. Remember when I introduced this wine to y'all when I was introducing the Pony Express case? I said, if you go to a school like Duke and you can spell Krzyzewski, you can spell Viognier. So we're having Viognier today, which is a beautiful white wine made famous in the Condrieu region of France. And we produce it up at York Mountain. Let's talk about York Mountain in just one moment, because we were just there.
Yeah.
For those of you who missed out, we had a spectacular time this weekend at my winery.
Cheers. Before SMU went bowl eligible.
Bowl eligible, but we're 6-1. We're 6-1. I mean, think about that. Preseason, if you would have said 6-1 at this point, you would have taken it.
Oh, a million times over.
Absolutely would have taken it. And we did it, we've done it in a spectacular fashion. Mm-hmm. Our only loss is to the 9th rated BYU Cougars now. Yep. Hard to believe. If we'd have won that game, we'd be in the top 10.
I know.
You know, it's unbelievable. And who would have thought that at that time? A strange year for college football. We had the best time this weekend at our winery. When I say my winery, it's always my wife's and my winery, up at York Mountain. And thank all you Road Warriors that came up for that. It was really great.
That was special.
They came all the way up there. It's not easy to get to. Paso's not. But we had so much fun. We did the last podcast from the tasting room, which was totally ad-lib and totally fun. All of our podcasts are ad-lib.
There's only one thing on each podcast that we plan.
What is that, the score?
Talking about Sonny.
Talking about Sonny. I may not talk about Sonny this week, but it's early. All right, let's talk about the game. I want to talk a little bit about Stanford, and then I want to talk a little bit about Duke. But first, let's talk about Stanford, the Stanford game. No, I want to talk about Stanford.
Yeah.
I had an epiphany this past weekend because, as I've told you guys when I was on one of our earlier podcasts, it was down to SMU or Stanford where I went to college. SMU was my first choice, Stanford was my second choice. And you know what it's like, I think, probably, if you make a decision, but in the back of your mind, you always kind of wonder, maybe, what if I had gone to Stanford?
Yeah.
You know, I never would have met my wife, which is the light of my life, if I'd gone to Stanford. But in the back of my mind, you know, it's Stanford.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
it's
Stanford.
really prestigious.
It's very prestigious, and you know, you're in Silicon Valley and da-da-da-da. Anyway, so when we went there this past weekend, you dropped us off. It was me, you, and Connie and Richard Ware.
Yeah.
And we walked through the campus, and I was bragging on that campus.
Yes.
On that last podcast, 8,000 acres, spectacular, blah blah blah. But I got to tell you, it was weird. It's too big. It's too big.
Yeah, it was huge.
It's too big because
we walked 1.5 miles to get all the way over to our tailgate.
Yeah, and we saw a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
In 1.5 miles.
All the tents were empty.
All the tents dead empty, and it felt like you were walking through Central Park. It was designed by the same guy who designed Central Park, and it was so well manicured.
It was.
But it felt like you didn't want to fart. It was so fucking nice. I mean, it was just like, and you're kind of going, this doesn't feel collegiate.
Yeah.
It didn't feel.
It felt like a Taj Mahal. I've never been to the Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and it was weird. I was expecting it to be much more collegial, much more, I don't know. And so I felt really good about my decision. Actually, looking back after all these years, I mean, gosh, that was 4 years ago now. Of choosing to come to SMU, because you look around campus right now, I mean, the kids are walking around. I mean, it's not passing hours right now, but I've already passed, you know, like 50 guys that could have been in my fraternity and 40 girls I wish I could have dated. I didn't see a one at Stanford the whole time I was there, and I'm not going to go there, but I could go a long way there. And then we go to the game. And
that was sad.
I cannot describe to you how absolutely weird the game setting was.
Yeah.
Because, guys, it was like a scrimmage. It was even worse than a practice scrimmage.
Yeah.
It was so quiet.
Yeah.
There was more SMU fans, I think, at that stadium
Pretty close.
than there were Stanford fans.
Yeah.
And they didn't know how to cheer. There was no energy. The sound system sucked.
Yeah, there's no.
And I can't even describe it to you. You had to kind of have been there.
Yeah.
Our podcast buddy Eric McLean.
Yeah.
I think he said it was the worst game day experience he had ever seen since Pop Warner football.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Exactly.
And it was weird because, in very typical Northern California fashion, the weather was perfect. Perfect. 78 degrees, not a breath of wind.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there in this essentially Taj Mahal. It's actually a really gorgeous stadium.
Yeah.
The grass was like a Premier League soccer field. You know,
Yeah.
I wanted like Ted Lasso to come out there and it was so perfect. But boy, oh boy, it was weird. And I've got to get a little critical of Stanford here. Stanford, you have a storied program, and you're letting that reputation go to waste.
Yeah.
And if you're telling me that you can't get NIL quality or SAT, ACT quality kids there, I'm telling you, Army's undefeated.
Yep.
Navy's undefeated. And you know what? The standards of getting in those two schools is really damn difficult.
Yeah.
And they have no NIL, they have no transfer portal.
Yeah.
Stanford's got a $38 billion endowment.
Yeah.
I didn't talk about it on the podcast, but they have the second number of billionaires of any school in the United States. 71 that have graduated, that are living, that are from Stanford. Only Harvard has more. I mean, SMU's got a lot, but we're probably banging on 15, 20 maybe, I'm guessing. So we're a long way behind Stanford.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, to all the billionaires out there at Stanford, I'm not a Silicon Valley guy, but I kind of know the crowd you walk around with. Tell me you can't get a half a dozen of you guys to get together and just pony up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. I mean, it really is. It's quite embarrassing. And in fact, it actually, what it reminded me of what SMU was like for the 30 years of walking through the desert.
Yeah.
Where we were so bad.
Yeah.
And people would tell me, I wasn't really involved in those years because I was raising kids and starting a business and all that. But they were saying that, you would go to the game and it was really all about the boulevard. It wasn't a game because you knew you were going to lose.
Yeah.
And you knew you were going to get last place in your conference.
Yeah.
And now SMU is, we're top 18 if you believe the ESPN power rating.
Yep.
And we're just going up like this. And I mean, I'm not going to say Stanford's going down because as a school, it's not. But dang, it's almost like, do you want to be in the ACC or do you just rather just be like an Ivy League school?
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, I think their coaching staff is going to turn it. They feel like they've got to do it through the high school ranks, and maybe they'll see the epiphany. They were playing well early in the year.
I know they beat
Syracuse on the road. And
they almost beat that
line,
Lions cheating Sonny Dykes.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I mean,
they have an opportunity, and it just was. Eric McLean was like, I don't want to go back out there for another 6 years. He's like, got the T-shirt. We're good.
Got the T-shirt.
But
got the Hoover Institute T-shirt.
Yeah.
And listen, I know it's probably not a thought of the culture out there right now because Stanford's getting really woke. You're getting woke. And there are a lot of international students there. I mean, a whole lot.
Yep.
But I don't know of one international country that doesn't love sports.
Yeah.
So you can't sit there and say, oh, well, the Far East students, don't like sports. Are you kidding me? They love sports.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, Yao Ming is the most popular basketball player of all time.
Yeah.
So come on, don't tell me that. But I look at it and it was pathetic.
Yeah.
It was pathetic. It was sad.
Yeah. It was really tough for SMU, I think, once they got up 21-0.
All right, let's talk a little bit about it.
31-7 at the half to keep your.
Let's talk about the game.
Yeah.
My boy KJ, you're on pace for an 800-yard game after the first quarter. Yeah. I mean, he threw 3 touchdown passes. He had 200 yards passing in the first quarter.
Yeah.
In the first quarter. And the team, it was obvious when you're on the sidelines, it was so obviously over.
Yeah.
That the players just kind of like, it was like a practice scrimmage.
Yeah. They were that much better than them.
No, they were that much better. The defense was toying with them.
Yep.
How many 10 points they got, right?
Yep.
All 10 of their points we gave them.
Yeah.
I mean, we choked the ball over 3 times.
Yep.
We had a muff punt. We had and then a fumble.
Two muff pumps.
And then the
interception.
Intercept on the 9-yard line.
Yeah.
And so we gave it. It easily could have been 70-0.
Yeah.
I mean, had we just like stayed on that, but I was on the sidelines, and I'm not kidding you when I say this. When you're on the sidelines, you can literally hear people chatting with each other in the stands.
I told you this after the game. I heard Buddy Ozan whistling after touchdowns and big plays.
Mm-hmm.
I was up in the press box. He was down across the field behind SMU's bench. Like, that's how quiet it was.
You're not going to hear that in an LSU stadium
or
Tennessee
or
stadium.
SMU these days.
Or
either.
even SMU. I mean, it was so bizarre.
Yep.
And so, I mean, I don't normally ever talk to the players during the game, but I was talking to McGill about the weather. I mean, we're literally like going, how do you miss Stanford? And he says, not at all, but I miss the weather. Said if you wanted a date, you had to go to Cal.
Drive across the bay. Which,
yeah.
Hey, we're going to be at Cal next year.
I know.
And next Thanksgiving.
We ought to think about maybe doing another get-together. We ought to do maybe think about an annual deal. We need because it's a Thanksgiving thing, so we need to think about that. But it was so successful this last.
It was
coming out to the winery, and then we had
the tailgate. Unreal.
The tailgate we probably have between our tent and the SMU tent 500 people.
Yeah, 100%.
It was easily 10 times bigger than any tent that Stanford had.
Yeah.
I mean, easily.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway, so we do that as an annual thing, and there's so many people from California that are now at SMU.
Yeah.
I mean, our Spirit Squad, by the way, rocked it.
Yep.
That was by far and away. I'm not even going to talk about the Stanford Spirit Squad and their band.
Yeah.
Oh my. So trying to give it a little a feel for all of you kind of complainers out there about why we didn't just crush them, you know, even worse than 40-10. Guys, it was 40-10 on the road.
Yeah.
Come on, 40-10.
Conference opponent.
Conference opponent. I mean, it was big. But you're on the sidelines, and I was literally talking to McGill about the weather. I was talking to Isaiah about what type of shoes I was wearing. I mean, it was just like, you know, it was didn't even feel like a game. And then there was a collective heartbreak when RJ went down.
Yeah.
And guys, I cannot tell you, RJ went down, and I thought it was minor because he kind of got up and then he laid down. But I was walking by the bench, and all of the receivers together were in a circle with their arms around each other, and there wasn't a dry eye.
Yeah.
It was really, really hard to watch. And RJ, I haven't heard the news. Dude, if it's good news, great. If it's bad news, I think it's ACL. If it's bad news, they have great surgeries for that. This will make you stronger in the long haul. You're a great kid, and so much support for you and so much love for you, and you will bounce back. I know it's really difficult right now, but you will bounce back. And he is really a solid
Yeah,
guy.
100%.
And I just, my heart goes out for him, but it will make you a better person and a better player in the long haul. Yeah. And so RJ loves this podcast. He watches it every week. He always sends me funny memes or whatever you call it nowadays and laughs about it. So RJ, love you, brother, and get better if you're really hurt.
Well said.
So you want to talk about Duke?
Let's talk about Duke.
Have I dogged Stanford enough? Is that too much?
No, I think
did I go
it's very
too hard?
appropriate. I thought they played really hard. I thought
they
get everything out of it.
They played their ass off.
Yep.
Especially on the defensive line.
Oh yeah.
They kept
teed off on the offensive line a little bit.
They kept KJ on his toes.
Yep.
You know, they really did.
Yeah.
And of course he played brilliant.
Yeah.
Again.
And SMU's offense didn't have Brashard in the first half too. Mm-hmm. So, you know, accountability, all those things.
Yeah. And by the way, I mean, KJ is turning into like a young De'Aaron King.
Yep.
Or
a little Kyler.
A little Kyler, Kyler, a little Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, just the way his arm. Yeah, he throws some balls. Yeah.
Does that sidearm thing, and then runs up to the line, and then last second goes like that.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's amazing. So let's go for the Blue Devils. You want to talk about them?
Yeah.
By the way, what the fuck is a Blue Devil?
I don't know. Are they so hot that they're blue? You would know that as the little bit more sciencey person on the podcast.
Let me tell you the science on this, but I was thinking Blue Devil. If I'm going to go political, Blue Devil is James Carville. Is James Carville not a Blue Devil? All right, that's just fun. We got to have fun.
Bill could say that because he's from New Orleans.
Yeah.
Not from New Orleans, but you guys spend time
the
down
mouth
there.
of the South.
Yep.
So, Duke campus, gorgeous.
Can't wait to go. I've never been.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
It's a Gothic architecture. It feels a little bit like Harry Potter, kind of Hogswort.
Cool.
It's kind of cool. You'll like the stone.
Okay.
On all the buildings. Here's a geeky geology deal here. The stone came off the supercontinent Gondwanaland 650 million years ago. It was originally a volcanic stone, and then the volcano was eroded and then deposited into the ocean. And then with heat and pressure, it was metamorphosed.
Wow.
So it is a very, very unique stone. It's from a quarry that Duke actually owns. Huh. And it's kind of a blue color, and it's got all these different colors of, it's like a gneiss or a schist. But my wife and I learned this kind of stuff at SMU Geology, specifically in a class called Igneous and Metamorphic Petrology. So when you're there, you can walk around, and all of that trivia information, and $10 will get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks. But you can talk about it, which is good, right?
We've got to scout out Cameron Indoor too, because we know we'll be.
Oh well, by the way, Cameron Indoor and Moody were designed by the same architect.
Yeah, we go.
So they're very, very similar. And okay, Duke's normally a basketball school.
Yes.
Right.
They're playing really well right now.
They're 6-1. Let's face it. I'm pretty confident. I probably shouldn't be because it's a road game.
Yep, road game. A lot of overlap between these two staffs. This is
a lot of overlap.
Bragging rights type of game.
Yeah, Manny Diaz was the head coach for Rhett when he stole us away from SMU back in the day.
Johnny Brew's offensive coordinator there.
By the way, there's two ways to leave a program. There's the way that Rhett did, and the way that guy from Fort Worth did. Mm-hmm. And Rhett and I have stayed beautiful friends through the whole thing. Okay. And now he's at SMU. Versus that other guy. Yeah. We can't even mention his name. Yeah. Whoever that guy might be.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
But, so yeah, Manny Diaz and Brewer, who's the offensive coordinator, he wasn't our OC. What was he? He was our
quarterback's coach.
QB coach.
He might have been one that had a OC title, but
and
there's a lot of them on the staff right now.
Well, I know it. And then I think Rhett and him have been joined to him since high school.
Yeah, for a long time.
Long time. So
Auburn, Connecticut, bunch of stops.
So I really am confident going into this game. If you look at the way they played Florida State, they did beat Florida State.
Yep.
Florida State literally out-possessed them by 2x, had twice the total yardage. Florida State coughed it up 4 times.
Yeah.
And Duke won, so they won.
Yeah, they
did. And so you got to give them that. But I'm expecting Burchard, if he's out of the penalty box, to go off. Because they don't have a really good running defense. I mean, they're gonna run like a banshee, and KJ is gonna be working the field, and our defense may hold them to no first downs. I mean,
they were held to I think 183 total yards by Florida State, and we know what Florida State looks like defensively. We know how hard they play and how athletic they are. I like SMU's defensive line. I've said that, even when people were wondering what it was going to look like after that Nevada game. This group is so deep.
Yep.
So talented. They complement each other well. Elijah and Jafari the other night, and
my
Turbo.
God.
We saw Isaiah Smith's dad walking into the game.
That was so fun.
He was pumped. Yeah. And they're all just playing really, really hard. And they're, it's a different offensive line they're going to go against Duke, probably better than Stanford. But I expect a similar result up front.
Well, they don't have much of a running quarterback, so he,
he's just a big dude.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
they got Star Thomas, who's a good athlete, guy can kind of do it all.
I maybe underestimate Duke, the Blue Devils, on this one, but I feel pretty confident, man.
Yeah.
I feel really confident, and I think I'm going to make a prediction: SMU by 16.
Okay. So the line that I saw today, 11.5 for SMU, I think that's a really good number. And
I thought it was a good number, too.
I think this is going to be one of those games where if SMU can get up big, which they've started fast every single game since KJ's taken over. I think we're going to see that again. And if they can kind of get up, 14-3, kind of control the pace, I don't think it's a game that Rhett's going to try and embarrass Duke.
Of course not.
And I know, we've talked about it, that's kind of his style to begin with, but especially when you've got friends on the other side.
Yep.
But it is a huge opportunity for SMU to make a statement. A lot of people are waiting for this letdown.
Yeah, they are.
They're waiting for the coast-to-coast trip.
Oh,
they're waiting for eyes ahead at homecoming.
And some of these boo birds on these message boards are talking about, oh, SMU looks like crap. But are you kidding me? 40-10.
Yeah.
I do think that people are looking for us to have a take a breath moment.
Yep.
But I think we walk into the pit game and it's going to be they're going to be undefeated. We're going to be 7-1.
Yeah.
I'm expecting that'll probably be ESPN game day. You predicted that.
Yeah, we've discussed.
That could happen.
We've discussed.
But this is another ACC huddle game at Duke.
Yes.
They're going to be there again.
Yeah.
By the way, they maybe are good luck charms.
Yeah.
The ACC huddle, which by the way is a really good show.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's a really, really good show. So I could talk more about Duke. They're the number 6th rated school in the country. Stanford was 4. I mean, Duke's got a $13 billion endowment. I mean, it's a great school.
These are the two of the type of schools academically that when SMU made the move to the ACC, this is exactly what they wanted. Virginia on the schedule in a couple weeks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Duke.
BC's a good school.
I mean, Cal's a great school.
Great school.
Pitt's a good school.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Miami.
Yep.
I mean, we're not playing East Carolina.
No.
We're not playing Temple.
Yeah.
We're not playing the Cougar High or
We are
Memphis.
playing Louisville.
Memphis. Well, didn't talk about that, but yeah, So anyway, it is the kind of school that we aspire to be like, and I know we have a long way to go, but they're losing their way a little politically a little bit. They should need to be the middle more than they are to the left, but that's higher ed. Why do I go political all the time? But there is an election in 10 days, so maybe I'm just thinking about that. Anyway,
is there? I don't know.
Stanford. That was a scary experience. This is the week and a half before Halloween, but it felt like Halloween last weekend.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, it was just woof, woof. So I think I've done enough of that.
Yeah.
So you got anything else?
I'm pumped to see Duke. I really am.
Me too.
I think these are two teams that are going to play really hard. I think SMU will have a little bit of that kind of not bad taste in the mouth because they won, but they know that they have much more in the tank to give than what they did. And a lot of it, you have turnovers, you have miscues, and all of a sudden
it's 10 penalties.
For 100 yards. And,
Elijah Roberts was tackled by their offensive line like half of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been flipped the other way on some of those calls.
I mean, I was on the sidelines talking to E-Rob.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, well, you were tackled on that last play. And he's like, yeah, man, they're calling it on us, but they're not calling it on them.
Yeah.
I mean, I never talked to the guys on the side. That's how weird it was.
Yeah, exactly.
That game.
So that was
all
fantastic.
right, brother.
A great weekend. That was
absolutely.
That was epic.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody who came out and enjoyed with us. That was such a blast. We're going to do it again.
It was so much fun. We'll do it every year.
Yeah,
it's just
every
fantastic.
Year.
Yeah.
So let us know in the comments if you would be there Thanksgiving weekend 2025 for Cal. That's a first good place to start right there. Let us know on the message board.
The communists
as well.
versus the capitalists.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be fun?
Exactly.
We need to get into a meme war with the Cal guys.
Yeah, you're gonna have to hire some people for the pod. We're gonna be like Stalingrad. all the attacks coming. All the attacks coming from. Anyway,
funny.
that's
we can have fun with it. You got to have fun with it.
Exactly. You got to lean into it. Have a little bit of fun. So that's in a month from now. This weekend, SMU plays at Duke. 7 p.m. Central on ACC Network. Late one for us on the East Coast.
It is a late one. And by the way, everybody, please sign up for Billy's site because I know people at my age is a little bit complicated because you got to click a couple of But everybody asks me, I love the podcast. How do I get on to be a subscriber? On the Pony Express. So make a little bit of an effort because he's crushing it. Absolutely crushing it. Yep.
Hey, cheers to that. Cheers to you.
Yep.
Cheers to all the SMU fans that showed out this weekend at Stanford. For Bill Armstrong, I'm Billy Embody. Another edition of Walking Strong. We'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU-on3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to OnThePonyExpress.com for more coverage.